So today we're doing the best, bless you, we're doing the best bang for buck mod on the Genesis Sedan in my opinion. The Genesis Coupe Rspec comes with a Brembo package, which just so happens to bolt right up to the Genesis Sedans. So that's what we're going to do. Super simple swap. Honestly, the hardest thing about this swap is sourcing your calipers. Couple advantages of swapping to the Genesis Coupe Brembo package. You get more options with brake pads and rotors. The front calipers are actually slimmer in profile, so you can fit more wheel options in there. You get bigger rotors. So they're 10mm bigger rotors in the front, but they're 4 pounds lighter. In the back you gain vented rotors. The only drawback with that is you're adding 4 pounds in the back, but this car is a little nose heavy with its weight ratio, so it's kind of better. You're taking out 8 pounds in the front and putting it in the back. Also, they look fucking sweet. You're trying to source our 2010 to 2015 Genesis Coupe Rspec Brembo package. So you'll also need bigger rotors, so get a set of brake rotors for a 2010 to 2015 Genesis Rspec with the Brembo package. I went with StopTech slotted rotors, and you'll also need a means of bleeding your brake system and a couple bottles of Hyundai .4 brake fluid. So obviously start by jacking your car up, taking your wheels off. So remove the 2 rotor screws that are on the rotor. I highly suggest an impact screwdriver. Trust me, just get one, they're cheap. You don't want to fuck around, strip those, and then you gotta end up drilling them out. It's a nightmare, so don't fuck with that. Next you want to undo the brake hose bracket, which is on the spindle. I think that's a 10mm. And I'll have all the torque specs and socket sizes all in the description, so you can refer to that. Next you want to undo the Banjo Bolt on the back of the stock caliper. Just have a bucket ready, drain that fluid, and then reattach your Banjo Bolt to the back of the caliper. You want to undo the brake hose nut with a flare wrench, very important. Get a 7/16 flare wrench. You don't want to round out that bolt. You don't want to fuck with it. Just get a 7/16 flare wrench and be done with it. Next you want to undo the brake hose horseshoe clip. So take some pliers, or in my case a screwdriver, and pry that out of there. Next you want to crack the 2 caliper mounting bolts that are in the back of the caliper. Then remove the caliper. Oh yeah. After you remove the caliper, you want to remove the rotors. Sometimes you'll need a little persuasion. There it goes. Oh yeah. I also took this opportunity to clean up the hub a little bit, so just a little brake clean and a wire brush. I didn't get too crazy with it, but just clean it up a little bit just so the rotor sits a little more true. Next, take your brake cleaner to your new rotors and clean those off. Next, I prepped my calipers. I started by removing the 2 pins. I just used a hammer and a really thin Allen key, but you can pretty much use anything. Put a little anti-seize on the backing plates of each pad. Insert the brake pad. Put the pin through the caliper, through the ear of the brake pad. And then tap the pin flush with the hammer. Then you're going to want to grab your retaining spring and insert it underneath the pin, and then push down the other side while inserting the second pin, and then hammer that flush. Then you want to put the Banjo Bolt with 2 new crush washers, making sure that the hook lines up on the caliper. You can use your stock brake lines, but the hook doesn't match the back of the Brembo caliper, so mine just came with the Coupe line, so I just used those. They bolted up fine. They're a little bit shorter than the sedan brake lines, but I mean, there was no reach issues. They worked out just fine. So then you want to install the completed Brembo caliper on your car. Tighten the 2 mounting bolts, reinstall the brake hose horseshoe clip, tighten the brake hose nut, and then you're done. The rears are the same thing. The only difference in the back, this is probably the most tedious thing about this install, the rear brake dust shield, there's not enough room to clear the new vented rotors because they're a little thicker. There's 2 things you can do. What I did was I just bent out the curved edges, then I pushed the entire brake shield back to clear the vents. When you do that, just make sure that you're not going to interfere with any suspension components. It does take a little bit, but I'm sure it'd be faster if you just cut them off. So after you've done that, you want to bleed your brakes. So to bleed your brakes, you're going to need some .4, and you're going to do them in this sequence here. I'll have a picture of this in the description. The only other note, considering they're Brembos, they have 2 bleeder screws, so each corner you're going to start from the inner bleeder screw and then move to the outer. Last thing you want to do is bed in your pads. Yeah, have fun. It's not a hard install at all. Like I said, the hardest thing to do is to find a set of good calipers for cheap. They're all over eBay. If you're patient enough, you can snipe one. So, like I said, leave your questions and concerns down below. I'll get back to them promptly, and we'll see you in the next one.